All right, Todd's according to the iPad, it's 6:46, so I'm going to go ahead and convene this meeting to order and call it to order, excuse me. And our first item is closed meeting. Specifically, be it resolved that the Montgomery County Board of Supervisors hereby is entered into a closed meeting for the purpose of discussing the following. Section 2.2-37, discussion, consideration, or interviews of prospective candidates for employment, assignment, appointment, or employees of any public body. 1. Board of Zoning Appeals, BZA, Montgomery Tourism Development Council, New River Highlands Resource Conservation and Development Council, and the Western Virginia Regional Jail Authority. Is there a motion to go in closed meeting?
Motion. Second.
Motion by Supervisor Fidjakowski and a second by Supervisor Shepard. Madam Clerk, or any discussion? Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Mr. King?
Aye.
Mr. Fidjakowski?
Aye.
Mr. Moss?
Aye.
Ms. Biggs?
Aye.
Ms. Bennett? Aye. Mr. Shepard?
Aye.
Chair Tuck?
Aye.
7 ayes.
We're in closed meeting. Is there a motion to come out of closed meeting?
So moved.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
I was going to say, that make it a long closed meeting. There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Fidjakowski?
Aye.
Mr. Moss?
Aye.
Ms. Biggs?
Aye.
Ms. Bennett?
Aye.
Mr. Shepard?
Aye.
Mr. King?
Aye.
Chair Tuck?
Aye.
7 ayes.
Certification of closed meeting. Whereas the Board of Supervisors of Montgomery County has convened a closed meeting on this date pursuant to affirmative recorded vote and in accordance with the provisions of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act. And whereas Section 2.2-3711 of the Code of Virginia requires a certification by the board that such closed meeting was conducted in conformity with Virginia law. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Supervisors of Montgomery County, Virginia hereby certifies to the best of each member's knowledge, 1, only public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements by Virginia law were discussed in the closed meeting to which this certification resolution applies, and only such public business matters as were identified in the motion conveying the closed meeting were heard, discussed, or considered by the board. And what this certification is it's our board's word to you that we're not talking about anything that we're not supposed to in closed session. Is there a motion on certification?
So moved.
There's a motion by Supervisor Biggs and a second by Supervisor Shepard. Any discussion? Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Moss?
Aye.
Ms. Biggs?
Aye.
Ms. Bennett? Aye. Mr. Shepard?
Aye.
Mr. King?
Aye.
Mr. Fidjakowski?
Aye.
Chair Tuck?
Aye.
7 ayes.
The next item on our agenda is a moment of silence, and then I'll ask the county administrator to lead us in the pledge. Would everyone rise?
Let us pledge, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much.
Next item on our agenda is Mr. Clark with the VDOT. He's going to provide us some information about our roads and projects here in Montgomery County.
Good evening, thanks. Just a few little things. I guess I wasn't here last month, in October. And going back to some of the things that were requested at the September meeting, most of them were brush cutting type of things. We have been doing some brush cutting. I don't have a list, and we probably still have some more we have to do. We got a little bit of help from nature on that one because we've had some bad storms, and we've done some tree cleanup from those storms, mostly namely Route 11, Fire Tower, and Mud Pike areas. It wasn't some of the Roanoke area got hit with some of those floods and the storms badly, but most of Montgomery did okay. Floyd was hit pretty bad, and actually some of our guys in Montgomery went down and helped them in the Czech area of Floyd. But we did have some flood repair on Dry Run and Taylor Hollow that we had to do. And working shoulders, again, mostly due to the heavy rains, it erodes the shoulders pretty bad. And again, Mud Pike, Elton, the fire tower area, they were hit quite a bit with that. Of course, the big weather thing right now is going to be tonight and tomorrow. And October is generally the time when we start getting ready for winter weather, and we do a complete check of our equipment. We've been doing that this month, and we have a meeting of all the maintenance superintendents in the entire district. We meet down in Salem and go over the snow reminders and make sure we have all of our hired equipment. We rely very heavily actually on our local contractors who may not have as much work in the wintertime, and they come out and get plow rigging on. We're now doing tracking a lot of these hired equipment with like GPS type equipment on there, so they all have to be outfitted with that. It's become a lot more high tech than it used to be, just hiring equipment and having them come in, put a plow on and tell them to go push somewhere. We have to be a lot more careful with how we hire and how we monitor a lot of that. So there's a lot more of that going on in signing these guys up and making sure they have the equipment is in good running order, and it's the type of equipment that we can use really in some of the snow equipment or snow removal that we do. Some of the construction projects that we're working on, of course, Prices Fork Road is a locally administered revenue sharing project that's half funded by VDOT. It's to VDOT standards, but the county's administering that, and that's been awarded, and they'll be working on that. Probably not so much this winter, of course, but they're adding a center turn lane right through the community of Prices Fork. Sydney Church Road, there's about half of it is left to pave, and that's being put together right now. We're supposed to have that out to add by February, so it'll be built this summer. We're finished up Brush Creek. I think I told you last time we pretty much done Brush Creek Road, the half mile on the Floyd end, the Dobbins Hollow end. That's now complete. We've got all the surface treatment on that done. A couple other things. There was an 81 concept meeting, a public hearing, and combined with our primary 6-year plan meeting. That was October 25th. I believe a couple board members were down there for that. You probably got a report from them on what went on. It was the 6-year plan public hearing was held every spring and fall. It's not the same kind of meeting as it used to be now that we have this application process, this smart scale application process, but they still come out and listen to people's and local legislators' ideas for future projects. And then there was the third in a series of meetings that I know the county's been briefed on before on 81, and basically it was here, everyone knows what the problem is, but here's where the major issues are, and this is what it's going to cost, and trying to figure out exactly how to go about paying for that. That's the big question now. And there was a request for a center line on Clay Street, and we got the center line done on Clay Street. The center line all the way to the entrance to Cedar Orchard. So that was done. And that's all I had as far as updates go. We'll take any board questions.
Supervisor King?
Thank you for Brush Creek.
Yeah, that's going to be good right there. That's as much a drainage project as anything else. It's very steep coming off Dobbins Hollow Road and around a big curve. I think it'll be a lot of houses in there. It's very dense right there.
Yeah, just one question. Out there on Christiansburg Pike, out Pilot Road, across from the post office, have y'all checked that bridge there? We had a call about a week ago, and when you took a fire truck across the bridge, it looked like it about that much of a dip. It wasn't there to start with.
I know that's on a schedule fairly soon to be replaced. Of course, the question when you do that is, what do you do with traffic on there? Because you're going to pretty much have to close it right there, and we haven't really decided how to deal with traffic, but it probably needs another quick look since these floods. On one of the floods, and I can't remember the date of it. I think it was the one after the one that was supposed to be so big. It was Michael. Yeah. I was standing there at the post office just watching water flow over that thing. It was amazing.
Almost got to the post office.
It did. It was very close.
Yeah, I know y'all take care of that.
Okay.
I know y'all take care of that bridge pretty well, and I do appreciate it. That's all.
Supervisor Fidzikowski?
Another bridge question. The bridge on Mount Pleasant was awarded. Do you know when they're going to get started and close the road? And
I don't know when the road closure will start. If it was awarded recently, there's about a 3-month when the bids are opened. And I don't know if the bids were just opened or if actually CTV awarded. There's a month in between there. But they probably won't get started until after the new year.
Okay.
But I can get a firm date. I know we haven't held the pre-construction conference for that yet with the contractor yet.
Okay. I think one of my neighbors was following it, I think through the VDOT website.
Yes.
He's the one that told me it was awarded, so.
Okay.
Also, I had read somewhere, you had brought it up about the GPS on the snow plows, that VDOT has some kind of a program they're going to try where citizens can go online and see where
We've
they're...
been doing it in Northern Virginia. We're working right now with just a system where we can monitor them. It hasn't been refined enough to put out to the public yet, but it's probably coming at some point.
Okay.
It's available. If you want to know what they're doing in Northern Virginia, you can take a look.
Well, I know I read about the program, but I thought it was going to be started here at some point. I thought maybe it would be ready for this winter, but maybe not.
I'll find out when they plan on unveiling that for the public.
And the only other thing I got is thank you and all your folks that have worked so hard enduring these 2 hurricane remnants that passed through here. And you know, it'd be nice if we'd get a stretch of dry weather so you could make repairs, but it seems like every time you get ready to take care of a problem, we get another 2-3 days of rain. But I guess that's the way life is. But thank you.
Thanks.
Vice Chair DeMotts.
I don't have any questions. I appreciate you being here with us this evening and the work that's going to go into overnight tonight and all winter. So thanks so much.
Okay, thank you.
Supervisor Biggs.
I don't have any questions, but I wanted to let you know that when we went to VACO, Senator Hanger seemed to be very supportive about getting something done with 81 because, of course, he's from Augusta County. So...
Yeah, that's good. And I know that that Salem Stone, ACO Stone, held a kind of a reception for all the people kind of involved, and he invited it was Jay O'Brien, Vice President, invited a lot of political leaders here and people that are interested in it, and you've got a lot of private interests that are also trying to make the legislators understand that we're all very concerned and something they need to figure out something.
Thanks.
Anything else?
No.
Supervisor Boone.
I want to thank you for you put speed limit signs on Woodland Hills, which is my neighborhood.
That's right.
And some neighbors put in the petition, and they were so excited. My husband wasn't, though. So, but yes, thank you for the Clay Street double lines. When I look at the double lines, it makes the road look wider to me, but my constituents say it makes it seem more narrow, which I think is quite the optical illusion. I don't know
And
what.
when I look at it, it doesn't matter which one I'm driving in, it looks like it's not in the center. The one I'm driving in looks bigger, but it changes when I turn around, so it's one of those optical illusions, I think. Especially when it's new and you're not used to it.
Right. So it seems like half the people noticed the line and half the people didn't. And not many people noticed the speed limit sign that went up too, which is really interesting. And so I drove down there to make sure I knew what it was. Do you have any information about the grant application for the sidewalk of Clay Street?
No, I'll find out that Paul Brown's working on some of that, and I'll see.
That'd be great. And thank you so much for what you've done for Clay Street and will continue to do. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Supervisor Shepherd.
I have a couple things. First, I really appreciate all the hard work that you guys do pushing snow and all the storm damage and all that. I've been there, done that.
Well, despite our best efforts, I've already canceled school for tomorrow.
Yeah. I drive school bus, so I've already got the notice.
My wife teaches at KIPP, so.
There's a gentleman that lives in McCoy, and you may or may not know his name, Stuart White. He lives right on the Blacksburg side of Big Vein, about a quarter of a mile.
Okay.
Where that one curve at Big Vein goes right into the next curve going the other way. In that curve, you guys did a bunch of work, I don't know, a year ago or a year and a half ago, ditch work. And it looks like that ditch is about 4 foot deep now.
Okay.
And I don't know what the problem was to begin with. He's complained to me a couple times about there's water stands in that ditch, and it looks like it's probably 2 foot deep. And I know in the summertime that probably is not a good thing, mosquitoes and larvae and that sort of thing. But he says he gets water in his basement and it seeps up from the bottom because that water's standing in that ditch, and I don't know if that has anything to do with it. But it looks like to fix it, one of two things is going to have to happen. Either you're going to have to fill that ditch halfway back up or lower his culvert. I think that would do it too. It's pretty level
not
through
getting into
there,
the
so it
culvert
doesn't
yet.
drain. It looks like the culvert's about a foot higher than the
Okay.
bottom of the ditch line.
I can find out where that is.
Yeah, I meant to get the address and I didn't.
That's okay.
I'm
With his
sorry.
name, with his name, I can get it.
Stuart White.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's right, his driveway is the culvert that needs to
Okay.
be lowered. And then I had another gentleman, McCoy, and I'm not sure where he's talking about, and he didn't give a specific place. He just said, the roads in McCoy are all to pieces. Can you not get them to do something? So, there you go. Please look at it.
I'll do a tour.
Just do a tour of the board.
And that's all. Thank you.
Well, Mr. White had also contacted me about the flooding of his basement and where the water was standing, and he's hoping that either lowering the culvert or doing something with the drainage ditch will be able to help him.
Okay.
The other thing is, you've agreed to come do a community meeting on Thursday, November the 29th at 6 o'clock at the Animal Care and Adoption Center.
Correct.
To talk about Yellow Sulphur Springs Road and the paving of the last stretch. Want to make that announcement, and hopefully we'll be able to send some postcards to those folks along that road. Any of my fellow supervisors are welcome to come. There's going to be a PowerPoint presentation made by VDOT as well as some discussion about what those citizens want to see, because there's money right now to kind of, as I understand it, pave the road where it is, or in several years we might be able to develop or obtain additional funds to kind of straighten the road out. And so we're hopefully getting some citizen input. There is some disadvantages with having a straightened road because people tend to go faster, and more people might use that road for a cut through, the straighter that road is. So we want to get some citizens input, and so I really do appreciate you and your staff being willing to come on the 29th at 6 o'clock.
Glad to do it. That's a road, goes from Janelle Road down to Christiansburg. I guess it hits Cambria Street. And we've been kind of working on it on each end. We've got the easy parts all finished. The tough parts in the middle, where there's some curves and there's a lot more houses in the middle section. So we thought before just steaming ahead, we kind of asked them one more time. We've met in the past with them, but it's been many years ago. Now we're actually ready to decide, what would you like to see? Because what I don't want to do is go out and just build something that we think people want, and then after it's all done, have them come back and say, well, why'd you do it that way? So I know we're not going to make everybody happy, but
I was going to
at
say,
least-
you can make everybody happy. You're amazing.
Yeah, no, that's
You
not
need
gonna
to be
happen.
up here if you can do
Right.
that.
But at least they'll know beforehand what we're doing and why, instead of just sort of wondering as the trucks go by.
Well, thank you very much. Any other questions? Does that cause any other additional questions? David, good luck out there.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you again, and all
We'll be
your
up late
staff.
and in early too. So
Yeah.
thanks, Dave.
Be safe.
The next item on our agenda is public hearing, specifically a boundary adjustment agreement with the town of Blacksburg and the former AEP property. Boundary adjustment agreement with the town of Blacksburg to incorporate within the town of Blacksburg approximately 10.772 acres located on the existing northeastern boundary of the town of Blacksburg and the unincorporated area of the county referred to as the former AEP property adjacent to Nick Ryan Road in the Mount Tabor District, the Magisterial District, shown more particularly on the plat entitled Plat of 2018 Corporate Boundary Adjustment, Town of Blacksburg, Montgomery County, Virginia, dated June 25th, 2018. There is no one signed up. However, if there's anyone here that would like to address the board on this public hearing, they may do so. Well, now, you can't say that about Kenny and Brad. They're here, and Yann's here, and so any one of those three folks might want to address the board, but it doesn't look like they do. And that being said, I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing. And the next item is public address. And unless those three folks would like to come address the board, and seeing that they're not moving forward,
Wait, Ian started to get up. No.
okay. Yes.
I meant to catch it before you moved on to public address, but is that something that we could vote on tonight since nobody
Yes,
came?
it's on our agenda under new business.
Yeah, right. Oh, okay.
Tab A.
Yeah,
a
I saw
boundary
it
line
there. I just
adjustment.
wanted to make sure
Yeah.
I understood how
And
to.
since there's nobody who has spoken out under our typical board policy, we would be able to adopt it.
Yes, sir.
So yes, Sarah.
Thank you.
So public address, seeing no one coming forward, we'll go ahead and close that. I don't believe that there's an addendum. Is there a motion in regards to consent agenda?
So moved.
Second?
Any discussion? There's a motion by Supervisor Biggs and a second by Supervisor Shepherd. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Ms. Biggs?
Aye.
Ms. Bennett?
Aye.
Mr. Shepherd?
Aye.
Mr. King?
Aye.
Ms. Fidzikowski?
Aye.
Mr. Motts?
Aye.
Chair Tuck?
Aye.
7 ayes.
Next item is new business, and the first item of new business is boundary line adjustment with the town of Blacksburg. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion by Supervisor Bone and a second by Supervisor Biggs. Any discussion? Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Ms. Bennett?
Aye.
Mr. Shepherd?
Aye.
Mr. King?
Aye.
Ms. Fidzikowski?
Aye.
Mr. Motts?
Aye.
Ms. Biggs?
Aye.
Chair Tuck?
Aye.
7 ayes.
Second item is authorization to file litigation for recovery of opioid epidemic damages. Is
So
there-
moved.
There's a motion.
Second.
And there's a second. Any discussion? Motion by Supervisor Biggs and a second by Supervisor Bone. Hearing that, Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Shepherd?
Aye.
Mr. King?
Aye.
Ms. Fidzikowski?
Aye.
Mr. Motts?
Aye.
Ms. Biggs?
Aye.
Ms. Bennett?
Aye.
Chair Tuck?
Aye.
7 ayes.
Next item is appropriation county carryover funds. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Wow, I'm not sure on that second. That was
It
all-
can be over there. It's fine.
Okay.
Take it.
All right,
Yeah.
so a motion made by Supervisor Fidzikowski and a second made by Vice Chair DeMonts. Discussion.
Yeah.
Supervisor King.
I was looking through on the human service funds requested to offset a $2,000 audit fine for clerical error that occurred in 2013.
I believe that Ms. Edmonds may be able to address.
Most of them I've studied today. You had to pick the one that I didn't study today, didn't you?
What it does.
This has to do with when auditors come and they find something that was posted in the wrong place or some other type of error that occurred, then it needs to be corrected, and at some points in times it means that funds have to be returned. This was in response to one of those audit reports.
And that word, I'm just looking at that, I don't know why we didn't, it's not an audit fine, it was an audit finding.
Yes, it's
It was-
a finding that there was
Yeah.
$2,000, and if I can find my place
Yeah,
here,
it's
I'll
not-
tell you
it's not a fine.
specifically what that is.
Yeah, it's not while she's looking, that's not a fine that was levied. An audit finding means when they did the audit, they found something that was misposted. So this is to restore those funds to where they should have been. The word fine should, I apologize, I didn't catch that either. It should be audit finding from a clerical error.
It was the retired senior volunteer program, and it was $2,000 from a clerical error, and they do audit back, I realize it's 2013, but the auditors only come on a multi-year basis from the National Service Corporation. So when they found the error, then they want $2,000 back in funds from what the error cost in 2013. So this is just repaying back the federal monies. I don't like it either, but they want their money back.
The
so-
federal people,
Yes.
they got money.
Well, I agree with you, and they don't give us nearly enough for what we provide on the basis of this grant, but there was an error, the process has been corrected, and they want their $2,000 back.
Right. I was just wondering where it said fine, what it- whoever.
It's-
Yeah, it sounds like a fine.
It has to
Yeah.
do what they want. They found an error, and they want that portion of their funds returned.
Should be
And
fine.
it took them 5 years to find it, so.
Yeah, well, I figured that's what it
I
was.
was wondering they didn't charge us interest.
We got charged.
Don't give him any ideas.
Thank you.
Let's not mention it too loudly.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
No, I
While
just-
you,
She might be able to help me.
Well, I got all the
But-
papers, that's for
but-
sure.
With all due respect on this, I looked over this and looked over this. The registrar's office is asking for $395 for a mini refrigerator and a microwave. I like to see them get it. I mean, especially around election time, they have to stay in the office. And I know there's some out through the government center itself.
I don't find that to be objectionable. I mean, like what you're saying, that you'd like to see them get it, I don't find that to be an objectionable request.
We normally have them provided in central areas,
Yeah.
and that's what this recommendation reflects.
And it might cause other offices potentially to want a refrigerator and microwave, I suppose, is the idea behind centralized located appliances like that.
I'm just asking, let them have, I mean, majority rules.
Yeah. If there's 4 of these, then
any other questions?
One more thing.
Okay.
How is this drug court, how's it working out?
I have not had any clients go in. I've had clients who've applied to go in, but they've been rejected. So I don't have any personal experience. I can tell you through the courthouse that both, and they've just had their recent graduation, their first graduation, which went, and I think they're going to do a more formal
that's
in
what I was going to
January.
say. I talked to the Commonwealth attorney, and she's going to be getting an invitation to me to get to y'all for the one in January.
So I think it's just now starting. I think it's going to be a really good program. And I know that I've had some clients who've applied, but it's just really starting to get rolling at this point in time. But go ahead, Supervisor Biggs.
Well, I went to drug court today at 3 o'clock, and
As a
Judge,
spectator.
Yeah, Judge Bobby Trick was there, and it was really, really interesting because I had never been before, but you know, I really wanted us to be able to have one, and we talk about it sometimes at the Community Services Board. So it was very interesting. They've had one graduate. They have folks in different phases, and what they do is Lori Trill, who is I guess she sort of heads it up there. She presents each of the clients to the judge, and they give an update on, you know, where they are, what they're doing, if there have been any setbacks. I almost felt like he was like a counselor because he was very interested in wanting to know about their work, their families, their children, how they felt, what they were doing. They had one man that was from our our Montgomery County Jail that will be entering the program, so he was there to learn about it. And they had another inmate from the Western Virginia jail, regional jail, that was going to be transferred, I think, over closer to Pulaski, where her family is. And so it was interesting that you brought that up, Todd, because I was telling the judge that we had this on the agenda tonight, and one of their problems still is finding housing, because they want to have the people that are involved in the program be close to their support system and their work, and a lot of them don't have transportation, and it's so expensive to rent anything in this area. So they had one gentleman there today that he's just been moved from place to place till they can find, more of a permanent rent type situation. So the judge said he was really glad that I came to visit, and he wanted to express to you all to come visit any time and, to see what's happening. And then the former mayor of Radford had a class there that he brought from Radford University. And it seemed to me that it meant a lot to the folks that were there, that there were people actually in the audience that were very, we clapped when they graduated from one phase to another. So it was really interesting. I think it's going to be something of great value, because when you listen to those stories, you just think, well, what good would it be for a person just to be sitting in jail and not have help when they have a serious addiction problem like, what I saw today. So anyway, I think the next one is the Wednesday, maybe after Thanksgiving, but we can get the dates and send them out, because he would be happy to have us come visit.
If you'll recall, the monies for funding this came from the savings anticipated from paying the Western Virginia Regional Jail bill. So we took $25,000 from that and put it into the drug court program. There weren't that many clients last year, and it's my understanding from the last report there were 16 now. So there's been a significant increase in the number who are wanting to participate in the program, and as I understand it, it's a fairly rigorous program that you have to go through, and some don't make it.
If you mess up, seemed to me like what I heard today was you maybe get a second chance, but then if you're out of there, and when you're out of there, you're back in jail.
So anyway, these funds were left over from 18 last year, where we didn't have as many clients, but there's a significant increase in the number, and if they're successful, then this will be used to help pay their housing and utilities.
I'd like to make a comment, if that's okay.
Sure.
I attended 2 drug courts several months ago, and I too observed the same thing. But outside of that, some community members were criticizing the drug court and felt like it wasn't handled the way that some of them might want, but I've never seen any specific details. So I know nothing's ever perfect, but it's not all rosy either, and I wouldn't know how to investigate the comments that I've heard. So I put that out there just so that maybe we can help problem solve or something like that.
I can add something to that. I think that, we're on sort of the tip of the iceberg where, this is new, and of course the whole addiction, opiates and everything. And there seems to be a discussion among people that want a person that's addicted to just, you just don't take anything, you go to a 12-step program, and you don't mess up. And then there's another line of thinking is that's not going to ever work. You need to have medically assisted treatment, which would be Suboxone or methadone. And so what I noticed today was when I was there and I talked to the judge a little bit about this too afterwards, like you have to look at the people individually and decide what's best. And I guess there needs to be some interplay with doctors. But I think maybe what part of the issue is that the people make the decision at the level, the people that are in charge of the drug court, the community services, I guess, person, Laurie Trail, whatever. They make a decision about these folks, whether they should be, under medical assisted treatment, I think that's called MAT, or not. And I guess my question would be, when you're making a decision like that, like what input is there from a doctor, a medical doctor, as to that? But I think because everything's so new and people are learning their way about this, I think that's probably maybe what part of the issue is. And we're just finding out how addiction really, really affects the brain. And some people aren't able to ever go off any kind of medication. So I think it's just sort of all out there and it's all new, and there's probably some, back and forth, and we'll just have to go through it together and learn the best way.
So potentially, it might cost more because we might have to have physicians actually diagnosing these people? I know we're not
Typically,
deciding this right now,
right,
but...
no, a doctor, you're not allowed to take Subutex or methadone. You cannot just walk out on the street. The judge is not prescribing that. That has to be a medical decision. So as someone is making that determination, there is two schools of thought. I have been to the seminars, and the drug and opioid companies promised me that no, you're not going to be able to abuse Subutex or Suboxone. And yet I have clients who are abusing Subutex and Suboxone. And so I'm a little bit leery because some of these opioid companies were the same ones who kept promising you can take OxyContin and you won't get addicted. Okay, and it's going to be great. So I guess I am a little bit, even though I'm on this side of the fence, as a defense attorney, I question sometimes what these pharmaceutical companies are promising. So it is a difficult process in trying to determine whether you can trust these same pharmaceutical companies who promised that these long-term pain medications were not going to be addictive. So it is a balancing act. I will also say that it is hard for family members. If their family member does not get into a drug court, that's hard for them. They love their family member. They want them to get in, but there may be some very valid reasons. And when they're interviewed, sometimes you have people that say, I don't want to do this, I just want to get out of jail. Or my mom wants me to do this. Well, guess what? Mom doesn't get to live that person's life for them. They have to live that life, and they have to be committed. And if they don't have that commitment, then they're not going to get into the drug treatment program, and mom and dad or family members may not be there for that interview. Other criteria are, as far as violent crime, if you've got violent crime in your history, you're probably never going to get into drug court because they don't want to take those kind of risks and put somebody out there who is actually... It's one thing if they steal, it's one thing if they've hurt themselves through addiction, it's another thing if they physically hurt somebody else. So it is a complicated matter, but I will tell you and again, none of my clients have made it in, but it is a process that we're seeing that the Commonwealth's attorney is committed to, the courts are committed to, community services committed to, the defense bar is committed to, law enforcement is involved with this as well. And so I think it's a good process. Is it perfect? Like I said to Mr. Clark, I don't believe you're ever going to make everybody happy, and if you can, you need to be up here. So
And I think it's going to be a learning process too, don't you, Chris?
I do.
As we learn more and more about it. Yeah.
So, Supervisor King, did you have any other questions?
No.
Now, were there other questions of other board members? I know I didn't necessarily go in order. I guess I would have started with Supervisor Fidzikowski, but I was looking to see if there was anybody who had any other questions about appropriations.
May I make a comment?
Sure.
Fix that.
Vicki, you might want to fix April DeMott's couldn't have made the motion and seconded it.
Well,
She's very skilled. No other questions?
Do we want to discuss the refrigerator? Do we want to make a decision about that before we move forward with the vote?
I couldn't find the
Can
refrigerator.
I ask a question of the staff?
I know.
Because
Why
I'm,
did I
all
not
right,
see it?
and I'll blame Vice Chair DeMott's for this. I start thinking, all right, if every single department has a refrigerator, that is not very energy efficient, and then we are going to be putting them in, if one department gets it. But at the same time, is part of the building locked down during election time, and so those folks would not be able to get to the break room? Or are there reasons why they would not be able to leave that area during election time? Do you see?
When they go in there, they got to stand there when they count at the end of the day.
Well, it's $395, so it's a mini refrigerator. Some people in other departments have purchased their own mini refrigerators. We purchased our own microwave, not with county funds, but with our own personal funds. But it's $395, and yes, they have to work odd hours and things. And if the board wants to add that to the recommendation for appropriation, it's easily done.
Sure.
It's not a lot of money, and it could, it's not as though it is for large items, and they are a little bit different given the working situations they do with
And their
later
location's
hours.
a little different than
Yeah,
the
they're not
offices
in
over on the
anything.
other side. That recommendation came through just because that's just the way we've always reflected that, but I don't see
I mean, if we were talking a huge refrigerator and a giant microwave like we already have in certain places, that may be different, but for $395, they're going to be very small.
I say do it.
All right, and so there was a motion, a second, and the motion was made by Supervisor,
apparently.
Vice Chair DeMotts, excuse me. Do you consider that a friendly amendment?
Yeah,
I actually did not make the motion. I seconded it, but I
I did.
can't.
Okay, would you
Yes.
consider that a
Yes,
friendly
yes.
amendment?
I'm all for refrigerators and microwaves,
Well, all right, so there was a motion and a second in regards to this, and a friendly amendment in regards to the refrigerator and microwave. Any further discussion?
I'll just, based on that friendly amendment, it changes the carry forward recommendation to $1,224,760, which is $395 more than what's in the resolution, but
Thank you.
Can we make comments, or
wait a
are we
minute.
at the comment?
Well, I guess I was getting ready to close out discussion and go ahead and go for a vote. Yes, Supervisor Bowman.
I just wanted to make sure that we were being consistent with, the other departments. Are the refrigerators closer to the other departments?
Yes.
Okay. Are all of our departments refrigerator happy?
To the best of my knowledge and belief, yes, ma'am.
Okay. I'm okay.
They
That's all I
have
know.
Yeah, we have larger areas over in the Building C area for, yes.
yeah, they have.
Yeah, with the registrar's office down here, that is a little bit
They're
different.
kind of an island where they
They
are.
are.
I know where they are, but it's just,
Yeah, I
I just
agree.
didn't want interdepartmental jealousy to be going on.
I don't know if we can fix
Well,
that.
maybe I should stop that, but I just don't want us to start seeing $400 refrigerators popping up in the budget.
We'll take care of that
Thank
if it
you.
comes up. Yes, ma'am.
You mean like in the tourism office, yeah.
All right, there's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Mr. King?
Aye.
Mr. Fidzikowski?
Aye.
Mr. Mott?
Aye.
Ms. Biggs?
Aye.
Ms. Bunn?
Aye.
Mr. Shepherd?
Aye.
Chair Tuck?
Aye.
7 ayes.
Next item is appropriations, Montgomery County Public Schools, and I know that the superintendent reached out to Craig.
They're at the Virginia School Board Association meeting this week and had indicated that they could have somebody here. I think the assistant superintendent was planning to come tonight, but then there was a question, there's another appropriation that's on the next agenda. So there was discussion about pulling this off and holding it for the next agenda when somebody is available to be here. However, as I told the chair earlier today, if there's a desire to move this item forward, tonight with no one here to answer questions, then that's okay too.
I was the general feeling that they would like to be at least present if there was questions.
They would. Where the confusion came up was there is another item going to be on the November 26th meeting, and there was some question about having to be at both meetings, but
And that issue is that there's more students than they anticipated, and they believe that they're going to get around an additional $350,000 from the state. And so I guess, do we need a motion to table it?
I would like to not table it. I was at the school board meeting when they discussed this, and and everything, the way that they described it during the school board meeting, sounded urgent, actually, and they were expecting this money to come so that they could get, it's like the last item, Margaret Beek's roof. They're only going to be able to do part of that roof with the funds that are left over. So,
Right, but I don't think they're going to, I just want to be sensitive to what the school board is saying, that they would like to be here for that. And the superintendent has asked that. That's my only thought.
Well, and I'll say this to that. There was some confusion because initially there was a request to have it on one agenda as opposed to two, and then there was a subsequent message that said that somebody could have been here tonight if it was going to be on the agenda, and that's when we had talked about putting it all on the 26th. My thought is this is the 642 for the supplemental appropriation. If there's support on the board, that's the board's call as to whether they want to table it and wait or move it forward.
But we don't have anybody to answer any questions that,
do we have any questions?
I don't have any questions personally, but
I believe that they highlighted each of these items back when we were at the budget.
They did.
And had
and
they voted
it's-
on it, these items?
Yeah, they have.
Yeah, that's the letter.
Yeah, that's right.
I don't think there's anything new in here that we didn't have an opportunity to ask before.
Well, like I said,
I would like to make a motion
okay,
to approve this.
there's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Fitchukowski?
Aye.
Mr. Motts?
aye.
Ms. Biggs?
Aye.
Ms. Bennett?
Aye.
Mr. Shepherd?
Aye.
Mr. King?
Aye.
Chair Tuck?
Aye, and I would note that this is a fulfillment of what I personally said I would do back in our previous budget sessions, and I'm glad to be able to vote aye.
And I'll report that to the superintendent. Thank you.
Now, it's my understanding the item on the work session, Supervisor Bone, you no longer wish to take this matter up. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. So we're going to skip over that, and the next is the county attorney's report.
I have nothing tonight, Mr. Chair.
The next item is county administrator's report.
Just a couple of quick things. I will let you know that we are keeping an eye on the weather, as Dave Clark mentioned. I don't anticipate any schedule changes to the county schedule right now, but we'll see what the morning brings. Also, just want to thank everyone that was able to attend the VACO conference. I think we got a lot of good information while we were there. Some of the handouts from some of the sessions that I attended, I will have those scanned in and emailed out to everybody, so you'll have an opportunity to take a look at those as well. And I just want to remind everyone that half a day next Wednesday and Thursday and Friday are Thanksgiving holidays. We get the half day on Wednesday because we follow the state schedule. And just want to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving. Thank you.
Next item is board reports. Supervisor King.
No report.
Supervisor Fitchukowski.
I'm glad to report that I survived my first VACO conference, and also that it was more than what I expected, and I was very pleased with the training that was offered. And I would say the only thing that I didn't like is that there were several training classes that I would have loved to attend, but you can only be in one room at a time. But hopefully maybe, as somebody suggested before I left the conference, they were walking by and they said something about maybe we can turn this into a full week.
Oh,
That's all I have.
I would be so tired.
Supervisor Biggs.
Okay, well, I told you about drug court. So on the VACO conference, our new president for next year is Tim Reeves. He's a supervisor. In fact, he's the chairman of the Board of Supervisors of Wood County. So the presidency is coming back to Southwest a little bit, so that's cool. And I wanted to remind you that, and I know you guys already heard me say this, but if you want to serve on a VACO committee, make sure you get your information in by December 31st, and I would encourage you to do it. I think right now the only ones serving on a committee are Craig and myself. Craig's on 2 committees and I was on 2 committees, and they're very educational, and in the steering committees is when you actually form the agenda that goes forth for your legislative agenda that goes forth to the General Assembly. So then it's refined at the VACO conference, and then everyone votes on it on that last business day. So I want to bring that to your attention. Government Day, I believe, is January 31st, and I know Vicki will be getting that information out to us. And I was like Steve, I could not believe the quality of the work sessions, and I had a really hard time. And I know the first go around we tried to divide it up between the people that we had there, but I found out some really good information, especially on economic development, and then, you know, working with your General Assembly members were my 2 favorites. And on that one, it was trying to get taxes so that, you know, counties and cities could have the same taxing authority, and, you know, come up with some different ways that we could think about, you know, localities being able to raise revenue. But on the economic development front, I just wanted to report that I think there's a report that's going to be coming out, and in that report, it's to the General Assembly, it's definitely telling the state, hey, you got to step up. The reason North Carolina, South Carolina, and Georgia, the reason they're getting all these companies is they're putting money out there. It's not just up to the localities. And Virginia's, you know, like a lot of things Virginia does, we haven't put a lot of money out there, especially after we got burned on the Appomattox project. So I think the recommendation is going to be to put some money into site development for different communities. And so if there is any out there, we need to be aware of that. And that's all I have to say. Oh, supervisor manuals. The new supervisor manuals are coming out. It's a lot of hard work. They're going to be, I think, $75 a piece. And if we want one, they'll be at Government Day, and I definitely want one. I want an updated manual.
Supervisor Bone?
I want to thank the board for approving the town of Blacksburg getting Perkins Park. I think that's really exciting and going to be a great legacy for Miss Perkins. Second, I agree, the VACO conference was very good, better than I thought it might be, so that was exciting. A couple of the sessions that I went to were broadband and agriculture, and both of them I found very interesting. It seems like there's going to be an announcement of a program about broadband sometime in the next month or so, which is exciting, and I'd like to be on the front end of that. And then for agriculture, we had Miss Susan Sink from Sinkland Farms present, and she did a fabulous job, and I encourage everyone to check out Sinkland. She's done a great job with that farm. My third thing is it's exciting that Amazon headquarters are coming to Northern Virginia, and that Virginia Tech was instrumental in getting it there. They plan on having technology programs in their new facility. I guess they promised $250 million to start. And then lastly, I want to thank everybody who showed up to the Habitat for Humanity Government Builds Community Day. This past Saturday, we had 2 town council members from Christiansburg. We had 1 town council person from Blacksburg. We had the town attorney from Blacksburg, among other people. And it really, I love the fact that it was the weekend after Election Day, so people could kind of like refresh our friendships, regardless of our politics. So thank you again. Oh, last thing is we will have a dedication for the duplex in Christiansburg on Friday, December 21st from 12 to 5 is an open house, and our dedication is 3 p.m. Expect an invitation, but if you can't make it that day, we have 2 other dates, of which the community is welcome to all of these also. The first date is Sunday, December 2nd from 3 to 5 p.m. The second one is Thursday, December 13th from 4:30 to 6:30. And then the last one where our dedication is the 21st. That's a Friday, 12 to 5, and the 3 p.m. dedication. Thank you.
Supervisor Shepherd.
I heard about a scam some time ago in regards to getting phone calls from someone saying that they were working for the IRS and that you were going to be in trouble. I got one of those today. So just wanted to warn everybody that they're still out
They're
there.
real.
I tried calling them back. I got them back. I called them back and I messed with them for a while.
Anything else?
That's all.
Vice Chair DeMotts.
Just a few things. I'll save the best for last. I too enjoyed the VACO conference, and it was interesting because even though on the first class we kind of divided ourselves intentionally, but then we still were pretty spread out over all the classes. So it was good to be able to. I had the same conflict that Steve did, where there were multiple classes offered at the same time. And of course, I couldn't be in all. But I did learn a lot about utility scale solar, building resiliency into the electric grid, how to advocate to your delegates, and there were some really good presentations there. So that's always a very good opportunity. We concluded the conference by winning an awesome award that Craig has allowed me to take on a field trip with me. So this is a traveling award until I return it. This is the Virginia Green Government Award. This is the first year that Montgomery County has entered and won this award. So we are a green government for 2018. And this will be traveling with me for at least maybe a week. I'll bring it around with me and take very good care of it, and then I'll return it to the county where it can be hung in a place of prominence. But we did win this at the VACO conference.
Well, I think a lot of credit not only to staff, but you were the one, Supervisor DeMotts, that started this whole thing. So
Well,
congratulations to you.
Definitely a ton of credit to staff, because I said I want this thing and then helped, gave advice along the way, but it was a lot of work for our staff to get to accumulate enough points to actually receive this designation where we can call ourselves a green government. And I think it's a wonderful honor to have. So thank you very much.
Thank you. A couple of things. One, the VACO, every year you get 2 or 3 things in my mind that stick out. And I went to the broadband, and there were a couple of things that I felt like that we needed to share with the community. One, and my fellow supervisors, one was, as Sarah discussed, there is going to be a program. If you start now, they won't pay retroactively. So they want you to become part of that program in January or February, not December, because you're not going to be eligible for those funds. But the second thing that the governor's liaison talked about is a program that Comcast has, and I don't know how many citizens are served by Comcast here in Montgomery County. But if you are a citizen who has a reduced or free lunch, and you have it with a child with a reduced or free lunch, you can get internet for $10 a month. That's Comcast's program. And I wonder how many folks know that program exists. And I know everybody has at least some population of kids who are on reduced or free lunches. It may not be served by Comcast. It may be Cox, or it may not, like out where I live, you don't have any. But I think that's an important thing to get out there, that program is there. The other thing is much more on a personal note, and at this time, I'd like to announce my intention not to seek the chairmanship for the Board of Supervisors next year. This last 3 years has been a tremendous honor, and I've done my best to fulfill the trust that my fellow supervisors has shown in me to provide leadership for Montgomery County. My reasoning for not seeking another year's chairman is fairly simple. First, in recent times, the longest that anyone has served as a chair is 3 consecutive years. This is an example that I think should be followed. Having one sit as a chair too long can cause complacency, stifle new ideas, and positive changes. Second, I do not believe it is a good idea for someone to serve as the chair during their election year. My term will be ending in 2019, and there could be a great temptation on my part, if I decide to run again, to utilize the chairmanship for political advantage, and that would be wrong. Second, there also could be the temptation to attack the chair for political reasons, and in my opinion, that would be just as wrong. By not serving during an election year, these temptations are removed. This being said, I'm giving serious contemplation about not seeking a third term next year. However, I will not be making that decision until after we have elected the chair and vice chair in January. There are multiple reasons that are playing into my consideration whether I should run again or not. They primarily involve my family and their commitments to them, but they also reach into my own core beliefs about term limits and how long anyone should serve in one position consecutively. Why am I stating that I may not be running again? It is a simple hope that good people will come forward, making my decision easier. If you recall, last November, Gary Creed bravely announced that he would not be running again. His announcement allowed candidates the opportunity to contemplate whether they wanted to run for office and research the obligations of the position. Because of Gary's announcement, several qualified candidates came forward, and it is my hope that qualified individuals will be empowered to reach out to me over the next few months. While I will not be seeking the chairmanship, I do believe that changes need to be made as to how our meetings operate. Montgomery County is a growing county, and there are some luxuries that we may not be able to afford during the course of our meetings in the future. While we have adopted Robert's Rules of Orders, we have not enforced the portion that limits supervisors for speaking on an individual subject, initially for 10 minutes, and then after all of the other supervisors have spoken, another 10 minutes for a total of 20 minutes on each subject. As the county grows and the issues become more complex, I believe that we will have to make some changes and follow Robert's Rules of Order. While at VACO, I had the opportunity to speak to the chairperson of Loudoun County. In Loudoun County, each supervisor is limited to 3 minutes to speak and ask questions on any given subject. We are not Loudoun County, which has over 400,000 residents and a $2.2 billion annual budget. However, we are growing, and we want to make sure that we're able to effectively govern without our meetings straying into the wee hours of the evening when important decisions are made through the lenses of tired eyes. The second major change would to be limit public address to 3 minutes per speaker instead of our current 5. Again, using Loudoun County as an example, the public is only allowed to address the board for a set period of time. I would not be in favor of that. However, the speakers are even further limited to 1.5 minutes if I recall correctly. While we are not a county of 400,000, we need to think about making these type of changes in the coming year to make our board more efficient and more effective. Again, it has been an honor serving as chair these last 3 years, and I look forward to supporting the chair next year, whomever that may be. With no other items before, this meeting is adjourned.